Welcome to Gloria's Gab Live. I am delighted today. I have three amazing guests, and there was Florida Grand Opera. I've got right here Michael Pandolfo, who is a baritone. I have Stephanie Dosh. Stephanie is a mezzo soprano, and I have Charles Pandolfo. Excuse me. Anyway, and you
Colada,
are
yeah.
Colada,
There you
yeah,
go.
and
Americanized.
you're our tenor.
Yes.
And they're going to be performing in Rigoletto, and coming up on March 12th.
That's right.
We're going to talk about that today and hear some of their a little bit of the a little sampling of their voices that are magnificent. And I found out that they're all SEC graduates.
Yeah,
I got Vanderbilt, UT, and
Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So anyway, before we start, I have to thank South Florida PBS, the sponsor of our show. South Florida PBS has a lot of great stuff coming up in March. Season premieres of Call the Midwife, Sandition, and a bunch of others. And if you're not a member, you should be. You get a wonderful magazine every month that tells you what's going on. Also, they have a health channel. It's called if you go to allhealthtv.com, you can find all kind of information. And actually, they have some shows where you can write in and they answer questions. So you get free medical advice. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, so let's start. Who am I going to start with? Who do we decide we were going to start with? So first of all, the story of Rigoletto is so much fun. Who wants to give a brief overlay of what the story's about? Because it's got everything.
I'd love to take this one.
Okay, good.
Because it's one of my favorite operas. I actually did it as I did a report on it for one of my graduate school comps. Rigoletto is a really, really deep story, and it reflects a lot of Verdi's personal values because he lost his daughter early on in his life, and so a lot of his operas have very strong father-daughter relationships, which Rigoletto is no exception. So basically, we follow the story of this court jester. You could see Todd here in the jester outfit, and he is the jester to this duke who is kind of a philanderer, a very terrible person. He loves women. He goes to all these different married women, young women, whatever, and Rigoletto kind of abhors him secretly. And so the story follows Rigoletto's trials in trying to get the duke out of his life, essentially. I don't want to spoil the ending, but basically it ends up kind of biting him in the rear as the story goes on. But there's so much rich emotion and family ties, and it's one of the most, one of the most passionate operas that's so non-traditional and unexpected when you go to see it. Right. So I really love it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I know it's just everybody's favorite, I think,
and the
for
music,
a lot of people.
especially.
I mean, there's a lot of favorites, but
certainly.
that's one that the arias that you get to do are something that people love as well. And Stephanie, you play two roles.
I do. I have the unique opportunity to play two separate characters in one show.
Okay, so we've got you play Gilda's maid?
Yes, I play Gilda's caretaker and confidant, Giovanna. And I am there to watch over her while Rigoletto is off being a jester for the Duke. And she and I are also very close. She tells me personal things that she doesn't always tell her father. And we learn about that in the show as well. Mm-hmm. And then later on, I transform. And I become a totally different character in this show. I am Maddalena, who is the sister of Sparafucile, and he is an assassin that Rigoletto interacts with.
Oh my gosh! So you're busy.
I am. Yeah.
Costume changes and all.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And how about you? What are you doing?
Well, I play the knight Marullo, and Charlie's character Borsa. We are sort of the three amigos, if you will. We're these guys of somewhat noble birth that kind of hang around the court of the Duke, partaking in his parties and everything else, and kind of help everybody get up to some of the shenanigans within the piece. Marullo, however, is a little bit different. Something happens in the second act of the opera where he sort of has a change of heart. One of the pranks that we play on Rigoletto goes a little bit too far, and so Marullo has kind of a change of heart and sort of goes over to the good side in the second act of the show.
Oh, so great. So we've got some great clips. And who do we decide what
We're
order
gonna
are we
start with
going
Michael.
in?
Yeah,
We're
we'll
gonna start
go
with
to-
Michael.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're going with Michael. If you want to play that quick clip. And thank you, Elian, our producer, for being a sport and lining all this up for us.
Mhm.
Per un barbiere di parità, di parità. Tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, dove ragazzi, e mi fanciulle, quella parrucca, questo la barba, quella sanguigna, questo ecco, tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, tutti mi
Yeah, it's one of my favorite
Oh my
arias
gosh.
to sing.
Yeah, I can tell you're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then next we have lined up Stephanie or
I think I'm
or-
on the
oh,
dot. I
okay,
see
Charles is
myself
next.
right there. Yeah.
okay. If you can line up Charles.
Lève-toi, soleil, fais pâlir les étoiles, qui dans l'azur s'avale, brille au firmament. Lève-toi,
You wouldn't know it, but that's actually one of an adaptation of a Shakespeare play, pretty well known, Romeo and Juliet, and that's
Right.
actually that famous Romeo monologue. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks. I love
Oh, is
sharing that
it?
clip. Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Such
great
beautiful
clip.
moment.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Such a
now-
romantic, this guy.
I'm telling you, no. Well, I'm sorry that we made him so short. I
No, it's
didn't want it
totally
to stop.
cool. No worries.
Okay, we got Stephanie next. And this is from what?
The Barber of Seville.
Oh, okay.
That's for last.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Again,
Truly.
can we just go back and play some more? Oh my gosh. Well, if that doesn't whet somebody's appetite for opera, nothing will, right?
Totally.
You guys are amazing.
Thank
So
you.
you're kind of the people that are at Florida Grand Opera all year. You're in everything or almost everything.
Yeah, we're the studio
And then
artists.
you bring
yeah.
in some people for the guy who plays Rigoletto
Todd,
and,
yeah.
and Gilda are
Mhm.
people. And where do they come from?
From all over the place, really.
yeah?
So Charlene, the soprano singing Gilda, has come in from New York, and I'm not sure where Todd's come from.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then Jose, our tenor, has been working all over the world lately. He's been in Florida a little bit recently. But yeah, as studio artists with Florida Grand Opera, we get the cool opportunity to just be part of the company for a long time. We've all been here since November.
Yeah.
Stephanie actually is a second year in the program, and we get to do not only roles in the operas, but we get a lot of concert opportunity as well, which is fun. We get to act with interact with some of the opera donors, and we get to
Yeah.
kind of sing a whole lot of different repertoire. So we've done some musical theater stuff. We did some zarzuela a couple weeks ago, and we've
Oh,
got,
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah,
How
it was
did
a
that
lot of
go?
fun. Yeah, and
Where
we've
did
got-
you do that?
That was at Corpus Christi Church
Okay.
over kind of around the Wynwood area. So yeah, we get to perform all over the place in both
Yeah.
Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
And then we were talking about you did some like new stuff, the ones that you were in last year.
Sure. Last
Yeah.
year, in response to things sort of being shut down due to the pandemic, last year we put on a series of one acts, a shortened winter season
Yeah.
at Miami Theater Center.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity of performing in all of those.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to have been able to perform during a time when it was very difficult to find work as a performer.
Yeah.
And what was really exciting about that and fulfilling also is that the audiences in Miami were so excited to come and experience live theater again. It was something that they were
Oh.
obviously extremely hungry for. So I feel extremely fortunate to have been able to keep performing during that time, thanks to FGO.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember the theater, they spaced everybody, and I think everybody felt very
Yes,
safe in that
everyone had to be
environment.
masked.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so what's next? You've got a bunch of stuff coming up. So, and do
Yeah.
you need this to help you?
Well, once Rigoletto closes, we actually go straight into our next production. I think we start staging that week for Fellow Travelers, which is a beautiful new work of opera. A lot of the time when you think about like modern operatic things, you think about like crunchy atonal music,
Yeah.
but this is one of the most gorgeous scores. And you can listen to it on Spotify and you can hear how beautiful it is, but in reality, like when you get into the hall and you can hear the brass and the strings and how Gregory Spears has written this score for Fellow Travelers, it creates so much like innate drama that you don't have to think too much about. You're just, when you listen to it, you just feel what's going on. And it's a modern story. It takes place in the 50s during the McCarthy era in DC. So the drama is so rich in there, and the music is beautiful. I think it's going to be one of
And
the
you
great
play-
productions here. I play a guy named Tommy McIntyre, who is he's kind of the villain of the story,
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah. Usually the romantic, Romeo type character.
Mhm.
So I get to dig into a little bit of different dramatic aspects of my character, but it's still, the way the story's told, it all flows together really nicely.
Okay. And is anybody else in that one? Are you either one of you?
I'm not.
You're not in
My-
that
I
one?
am, yeah. I get the unique opportunity of singing the role of Senator McCarthy.
Oh,
There's
okay.
this great. A lot of the McCarthy era stuff is sort of played as this dramatic villainous sort of part for a lot of the opera. A lot of the drama focuses around that, and then in the beginning, the second act, I get this kind of small but really, really fun scene. There's some great high notes I get to sing and
Yeah.
kind of make fun of some of the other people in the cabinet. It's a good time.
Good time? Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of makeup.
A lot of makeup. Yeah. We'll have to do some work here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, and then after that, what's going on?
We got a lot of concerts coming
We
up.
do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Got one
Where are your
coming up
concerts?
on the 18th. Is that the jazz concert?
Oh, that's right. You do.
Yeah, at Dillard High. So
have
we're
them
going
right
to
here.
collaborate with their jazz program for that. We've also
Oh, that's
got
great.
a Mozart versus Salieri concert coming up on the 24th and 25th of this month. If any of the viewers are familiar with the movie Amadeus,
We
one of my
all
favorite
are.
movies.
Yeah, it's so
Then
good.
they're all
So epic.
familiar with that sort of dramatized rivalry between Mozart and Salieri. And there was some rivalry there, but it was often played up for dramatic purposes for the play and the movie. But with this concert, we get the kind of a cool chance to do some of Salieri's pieces, which don't get performed really very often at all. So we get to pay him a little bit of tribute and kind of compare and contrast Mozart's compositional style as well as Salieri's.
Interesting. So, and what do you have coming up?
I am going
Are you
to
just taking a hiatus?
I'm
Says on
singing
vacation.
Going to the beach. is what
Yeah, I'm
she's
going
doing.
Yeah, right, you're going to the beach.
It's the best part of being here. No, I get to sing in all of the concerts that we had listed.
Oh.
But Rigoletto is my final opera of the season here. I'll still be around to sing in
Yeah.
these concerts and to coach and train.
Yeah.
Because that's also a big part of our positions here as studio artists is that we still get training in the form of coachings with pianists or visiting teachers or visiting artists that work with us in masterclass settings.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like a level that bridges the gap between university or conservatory
Right.
and then having a fully professional freelance career.
What? And I think a lot of people don't understand that Florida Grand Opera is like a training ground for some people that are just early in their career
Yes.
Totally.
and can, give them a step up big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to perform small roles in the operas that are a part of the regular season,
Yeah.
and also just to be in the rehearsal room with these very experienced artists. Our visiting guest artists have performed all over the world or have
Right.
had decades-long careers,
Yeah.
and just witnessing them work is an enormous education in itself.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
The
Yeah.
opera
Yeah.
industry itself typically requires a lot of training, not only for the voice to develop, which takes a lot of time, but from an academic point of view too, we have to understand our languages and be very, very competent with reading music, sometimes sight reading music. And so between all of us here, we all have undergraduate and master's degrees as well. But they always say that, experience is the best teacher. And
Oh, for sure.
programs like this, where we do, like Steph said, get to work with these artists that have been doing this a very long time or have had very successful careers so far, that's also a really, really huge part of this for the training purposes.
Yeah. Well, aside from, voice and, and everything else you mentioned, you've got to be actors.
Oh yeah.
So
100%.
do you take acting classes?
Yeah.
Or how does that, because I think, oh my gosh, this,
Yeah.
you have to be a triple threat almost.
Absolutely. In your own way, very different from the traditional like Broadway sense of a triple threat, because we have to know how to move our bodies, just not as much choreographed dance as much as like Broadway does. But I will say, when you're on stage and getting this experience in a huge hall like the Arsht Center, you get to really know what it is to do opera at its peak. Whereas we've spent so many years in school getting our degrees, getting up there and doing it in the space and getting to feel what it's really like with a full orchestra and with people who've been doing it for years and years and years right next to you, you get the best education possible. So you see what it means to act for a giant house where you're not amplified and people can't see you up close. You have to fill that space with your energy just as much as you do your voice. And it's one of the most thrilling experiences just to be up there, let alone experience it from the audience. Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you find, well, you can project like nobody's business, right? But I always think, how do they do that? Do you try not to talk during the day before you perform? Because I wonder if that's got to be tough. I sing in a choir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome.
But no, I carry a tune. I don't have any kind of range at all. But I sound okay in a choir.
Well,
but my voice sometimes, when I'm singing higher notes that I'm not used to, or out of my real range, my voice hurts. So I think, how do you guys do it?
It's a lot of practice and it's a lot of stamina that's been built up over the years. I mean, the little tiny muscles in your throat, they take on a lot of strain. And so that's what all this training is for. And, when you
it's
start
like working a muscle.
It is. It is very much
Yeah.
when you start using the breath and all these other little muscles of support. That's what makes it possible. So I mean, like to answer your question about the day before, you don't want to go out to the club or anything the night.
You don't want to
before
be
you're
yelling
singing
over
and
music.
You won't
or
be
anything.
smoking and
Yeah.
drinking. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
No,
basically.
no. But some talking, speaking. We call it on the voice. Like using a nice support, kind of how I'm doing now. You can tell my voice is kind of ringy. It's very supportive. So speaking like
beautiful.
that. Oh,
No, you all have beautiful voices.
That's
I
kind
mean,
of a
even
way,
talking.
yeah. So that's sort of a way to warm up the voice, and of course we do warm ups and everything before. It's exactly like exercising a muscle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really relate this a lot to being an athlete. You repeat the same gesture, the same phrase over and over again until it becomes second nature. And so in preparation for a performance, we're rehearsing a lot, we're practicing a lot, and getting the music and the movement into our bodies. And so by the time we get to performance day, the work's kind of been done.
Yeah.
And at that point, we just need to make sure we're rested. We're not stressed the day
Hydrated.
of, hydrated.
Hydration's good.
Yeah, because
You're eating the right stuff. Yeah.
our body is our instrument.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that it's well taken care of.
Yeah, and in that same vein, I feel like a really good comparison for like the biggest and most legendary opera singers in the world would be like Olympic athletes. Like that's the level of skill and dedication that's required to really be able to do this reliably in the most scenarios, especially some of the most demanding roles like Rigoletto. It's one of those legendary baritone roles that requires someone with the experience and the ability of Todd, who can really capture that role that requires so much stamina and so much power and so much intensity. Yeah.
He's really impressive.
And so it is
Yeah.
it's a lifelong pursuit that I think that's kind of what got us all hooked in the first place. Is this is something we can do for our entire lives and continue to reap the rewards of having that dedication intact. Yeah.
Oh, so opera as opposed to musical theater,
Or anything,
which
yeah.
requires dancing, and ultimately you get too old to do it.
Maybe, yeah. In some cases, I mean, age plays a huge role in how the voice develops as well. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a long game. Yeah,
So I was going to say, as you get older, your voice gets even better, right?
yeah.
Right,
There's definitely a
amateurs.
trajectory there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? Speaking of which, I just saw a piece on Tony Bennett. Did you see
Mhm.
that?
No, but I'm sure my
He's
mother
got
did. He's my
he's got
mom's favorite.
Alzheimer's, and he was. They had him. He doesn't remember everything and whatever.
Mhm.
But as soon as they started playing the piano, he sang for an
Oh,
hour.
Yeah, my mom
Yeah.
showed me this.
Oh my goodness!
Mhm.
But he still has a great voice.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable how
Yeah.
music sort of activates those different parts of their brain and sort of
Yeah.
long-term memory and emotional memory too, as well.
Yeah.
So even somebody like Tony Bennett, with his memory loss, it's remarkable how he still remembers all of those songs and all of those lyrics. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And then when he went out on stage, he acted like nothing was wrong. Nobody would have ever guessed anything
Mhm.
was amiss.
He's
know?
he's an icon. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but opera
Mhm.
became your first love. When did you finally decide that was it for you? How about you?
Man, so I actually, we were talking a little bit about musical theater and dance.
Right.
That was sort of my background before opera. So my
I could kind of tell a little bit.
it was
'cause
all
you're-
the
yeah, right.
gestures, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, thank you. So my parents are both music teachers,
Oh,
and
they
I
are.
expressed an interest in doing musical theater pretty early on. And my mom was like, "Well, if you're going to do musical theater, let's make sure you take some voice lessons." And one of her friends taught what we call the bel canto style. That's Italian for beautiful singing, and that's kind of that old traditional classical style. And so I was learning that from pretty early on, and then when I was about, I think, 15 or 16, I took a voice lesson with this guy at University of Texas at Arlington. And he was like, "Oh, try doing this thing." And then all of a sudden this operatic sound came out. And I was like, "Oh my God."
I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah. And so I was doing some chorus work with Fort Worth Opera. That's where I grew up, Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
And being around, similar to here, being around those old, professional singers that have been having these careers, I was like, wow, I need to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And so from there, one thing just sort of snowballed to the next, and here I am.
There you go. Okay, Stephanie, you're up.
So I grew up being musical. I excelled in things like music class and choir, and I loved doing musicals. But I came from a non-musical family, and I didn't know any professional musicians. And so when it came time for me to go to college, I said, well, I want to be musical my whole life. I'm going to be a music teacher. It's the only way I know how to be musical my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I go to college and I learn about opera. And I see my first opera and I think, wow, this is like the perfect combination of the classical music I sing in choral ensembles and being on stage like in musical theater. This is super epic. This is life at 110%. I want to be a part of this. And I still got my music education degree, but I knew that I really wanted to pursue opera. And so I got a graduate degree in opera performance, and since then have been working professionally as a freelance opera singer.
Wow, that's great. Good story. How about you?
So I also came from a non-musical family, and when I was in high school, I was an athlete. I played football. I was a wrestler. I did lacrosse. I was on all those teams. And then one year, my junior year, I got injured, and I had to come up with a different extracurricular activity. Singing was something I was already doing kind of in choir my whole life. And I decided to kind of dig into that, start taking voice lessons. And it opened up a lot of these other opportunities for me that I didn't know were possible. So I got to go to a really great school for college at like a very reduced tuition. And I kind of just kept going from there. And that's how it happened. And it just like resonated with me, so to speak. Yeah.
and and your knees are good, and you're
Well,
probably
one
much
knee is
better
still
off.
not so
Getting
good,
concussed.
but I don't have to do as much on it as I
Okay.
used to. Yeah.
Okay, I got a bad knee too, so I'm with
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, but singing as opposed to sports, probably
A longer term investment, I
yeah,
guess.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what do you like most about working at FGO as opposed to maybe other places that you've been?
There are a
Is it-
lot of places in this industry where, as a young singer, you can go to get instruction from voice teachers or voice coaches, or do all of that preparatory work. And I think that's something that young singers really focus on a lot. But there's no place like this where you can meet the people who are doing it at the top level while you're also getting that instruction. And you can study the voice for 10 years in a studio, but until you get to see someone doing exactly what you're going for and experience them in person, like we can do at FGO, there's no better education than that kind of experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, we think so.
For me, this is Florida Grand Opera, and the grand aspect is that the productions are elaborate. They are beautiful. You'll see that in Rigoletto. The sets are fantastic and enormous, and the costumes are also gorgeous. It looks like a Renaissance fair. It's
Yeah.
truly, it's because Rigoletto is a period piece.
Right.
And so for me, it's the production quality of working at a large level company like Florida Grand Opera that's given me an education that I haven't received in the past.
Okay, you understand that the first time I saw anything, it was during COVID.
Oh my goodness.
That was the first exposure.
You're
to
in for a
Florida Grand
treat.
Opera.
Yeah.
I know, and I knew it was like, we're just doing this to do something.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. I understood that, but it was like, okay, so now there's the real show.
Oh, you're going to love it. It's going to be so epic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And how about you?
The beaches?
The beach.
No, I love, honestly, I really actually really like the concerts that we get to do because it keeps us sort of nimble on our toes because we flip genres a lot. We get to learn a lot of music that we might otherwise not get to learn. And we have a nice, easy place here where we have pianists and we can learn it and coach it. So it's just sort of expanding our own personal repertoire as well as our performance experience.
Yeah. Well, when I saw was it Trouble in Tahiti or whatever, it was like, there's a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm going, how the heck did you memorize all that
Just
stuff?
wait till it's in Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. Truly.
But come on, you've probably been hearing that your whole life, or come on,
Mhm.
But when you get something that's kind of off the charts, and not something that is something that everybody knows.
Sure.
You're doing a new piece or whatever.
Sure.
That's a lot to learn.
It is.
And then to sing it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things actually about doing this is that we have both standard repertoire that we revisit over and over again, something like Rigoletto, and we can build upon as we gain more life experience, as we learn more about our voices. And also we have the opportunity to add more tools to our toolbox in the form of new operas and things that might stretch us a little bit. It's a really multifaceted art form to be a part of.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what's very cool about FGO's season this year too, is we opened with Streetcar Named Desire, which people might know the play or the movie, but the opera's a little lesser known, but we had a fantastic turnout for that opera. And that's sort of a newer, lesser known piece. And then we have Agrippina by Handel, which is a sort of standard repertoire. We have Rigoletto, which everybody will know and love. And then we're also doing Fellow Travelers. So we have this cool blend of off the beaten path and then very beaten path operas, which we're using to pull people into the opera.
Okay, so Stephanie, you were telling me about Agrippina. Just explain that a little bit, because people are going to say that, never heard of that, so tell us a little bit about that.
Agrippina. So it is a story about manipulation. She is a woman in a leadership figure that manipulates the people around her in order to get what she wants. So there's a lot of deception. There's a lot of drama. And what's also really cool about Baroque opera is that there's opportunities to be very vocally virtuosic. So I think that if someone comes to Rigoletto and they really enjoy it, that they should also give Agrippina a chance as well, because it's going to be in Italian. There's going to be thrilling music and some drama as well.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And your take on it?
well, I was just going to say, one great thing about FGO is that there are so many education and outreach programs for audience members to go learn more about the operas that we're doing, because we're kind of like a museum for music in a sense. And that's part of our job, not only to perform it all at the highest level possible, but also to teach people about this music that's been around for like 400, 500 years, and that we not only want to perform but preserve as well. And so a huge like Streetcar Named Desire is not a hugely popular opera, and it's very new. And so I think one of the reasons that we had such a good turnout was because we took such an effort to educate our audiences and potential audiences on the show. And so it's a great opportunity that we have.
Do you ever do, and I remember going to an opera once, and the artistic director or something came out ahead of time and kind of explained what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Does FGO take an opportunity ever to do that? And if they do,
every show has a pre-show talk, as far as I know.
Okay.
And it's one of the things that really makes the difference between sitting in the seats dressed really nicely and acting like, hey, I'm at the opera, this is nice, and then going there and having a really transformative emotional experience when you can truly understand every facet of what goes into this this all-encompassing art piece.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm very excited to have you guys here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Gloria.
Yeah, and I wish I'm gonna save those clips. I want to see the whole thing. I want to see everybody's.
For sure.
But I want to before I leave, I want to thank again South Florida PBS for sponsoring us. Again, if you're not a member, join. You need to, and check out everything that's happening and all the new shows coming up. And have you ever seen what is it called, The Midwife?
I have not.
Oh, it's brand new.
Geez, I binged that one. That's a good one. There's a lot of good ones though. So thank you again, South Florida PBS. And thank you guys again for coming.
Thank you.
And look forward to Rigoletto. It starts March 12th at the Arch Center. And give me the dates. March 12th. Hold on. I've got them here.
Right here.
I've got
to April 2nd.
Okay. March 12th, 13th, 15th, and 17th, the Arch Center. And then Broward, March 31st and April 2nd. And so what's your web address?
You can go
FGO.org.
FGO.org.
And get more information and buy tickets. And again, thank you for coming. See you next week.